So recently, Nintendo announced the Animal Crossing New Horizons Nintendo Switch 2 Edition game for the Nintendo Switch 2 system, as well as a free update to the Animal Crossing New Horizons game for the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch systems, and I cannot tell you just how excited I am for this. I am an Animal Crossing YouTuber that has been starving for so much ad revenue for years now, and I can finally afford to keep the lights on. Raymond, please hug me. Okay, but for real, I am a little bit surprised by this update, but also not at the same time. Animal Crossing New Horizons is such a huge game for the Switch that it doesn't really surprise me that they are doing a Switch 2 edition. But the thing that does surprise me is that they're bothering to add new content to the game, because the game has been abandoned ever since like 2021, and judging by what's being added here, I'm more so questioning why they even bothered to do it in the first place, because what they announced here, it's not like it's bad content, but stuff that I don't really feel like is really going to get me back into the game long term. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, so let's go through everything one by one. Starting with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition stuff, what do you get for that? The game runs in 4K now. That was a given. That's pretty nice. You can use mouse controls now to decorate your house and make custom designs and everything, which I actually think is really nice. That's a really good addition. I think that is going to really help actually making me want to make designs, because doing it with a controller, it just doesn't feel right. So this will be a lot more convenient. The megaphone comes back from Animal Crossing New Leaf. You can use that to say a villager's name and they'll tell you their location. I mean, since the Switch 2 has a microphone now, that just kind of makes sense, so I'm down for it. And now you can have 12 players on your island instead of 8, which means 4 more people to do absolutely nothing with. And then with the USB camera, you could see everyone's faces, which, why would you do that when you can look at the much more handsome villagers by comparison? And that's basically it for upgrades for the Switch 2 specifically. Now, when Nintendo does these Switch 2 editions of games, they usually price them around 10 to 20 bucks, depending on how much they're doing. This edition is only gonna be $5, which, judging by what I just described, I think that's pretty reasonable, honestly. There really isn't much being added here. It just makes the game fit more naturally on the Switch 2, and that's kind of it. So charging any more than $5, I feel like would be asking for a bit much. But even then, I feel like they could have gone a lot further with this. Like, no 60 frames per second patch? Really? Like, Animal Crossing is a very slow-paced game. You do not need it to run at 60 frames per second, and while I'm not gonna pretend I know how video games are made, I can't imagine the code isn't that built with spaghetti that updating it to run at 60 FPS would be that hard to do. But I guess they also wanted to make it, since this is such a social game, to not make it feel like Switch 1 only players are missing out, so sure. Will I be getting this upgrade pack? I mean, maybe? I think if I hear that the loading times are a lot better, and the loading times are definitely improved by playing on Switch 2 to begin with, I might dive into it, because booting up the game, waiting through all those loading screens, waiting for Isabelle to do her little speech, and then waiting through another big loading screen, that's just a bit much, alright? So hopefully that could be subsided a little bit with the upgrade. But let's move on to the stuff that you're getting for free on Switch 1 and Switch 2. Starting with Happen starting up a hotel on your little dock. So it's not really a dock anymore. It's a way to get the locals to spend more money. Yippee. So based on what I've seen here, this looks like just another big decorating mode. You could decorate little hotel rooms for all different villagers to stay in, and you get rewarded for doing so. And if the Happy Home Paradise DLC did not exist, I think I would have a bit more of a positive reaction to it. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, Happy Home Paradise already did this 4 years ago. And that was a paid DLC for $25. This just looks like the DLC, but light. Now, I haven't really played Happy Home Town Paradise yet, so I can't really tell just how different it is compared to the Cap'n Hotel thing. I'm sure there's gonna be other things that help it stand out. But on a surface level, when you're adding in essentially another mode that's practically the same as another, my question is, why bother then? Now, you can get little tickets to get unique rewards in this area, which is kind of cute, and you can decorate mannequins so that when other people come to your island, they can wear the same clothing. Again, that's kind of cute, but I feel like if you were just gonna add this facility, why not just go all the way and just add in the full-on Tortimer Island experience? Because for those who don't know, in Animal Crossing New Leaf, there was an entirely separate island you could go to, and that not only let you get away from it all, not only did that have exclusive items to get, but it also had a bunch of different mini games to play. There was one where you were whacking a giant robot machine. There was one where you had to shoot down as many balloons as possible. That stuff added a lot of replay value to New Leaf. So the fact that they're taking this half step when I know they did better in the past, it just feels really, really underwhelming. Now, one thing that they showed in a text blurb that they didn't even really bother talking about is you can bulk craft items in DIY now, which, I mean, that's pretty great. That was one of the things that many people really hated about New Horizons, the fact that you couldn't bulk craft. So the fact that they're adding this quality of life edition nearly 6 years later, yeah, it took way too long to happen. But hey, better late than never. Now, if they could do something about your tools not breaking anymore, which is probably my biggest complaint with New Horizons, I cannot stand tools breaking, like, at all. I've ran out of patience for that. Then I feel like I would be a lot more positive about all this. I know I'm not the only one who thinks that, but I kind of doubt that's going to happen at this rate. Another thing they talked about is that they expanded the storage size for all of your furniture, items, everything in between, from 5,000 to 9,000, or at least you can upgrade to that amount, which, cool. I thought 5,000 was already more than enough to store everything I could want, but hey, you know what they say, the more the merrier. I will say it is cool that you can store flowers and bushes and trees and everything now, because my island is filled with so many flowers is absolutely ridiculous. So being able to store them without completely removing them, that's pretty nice. They also brought Mr. Rossetti back to the scene, and his job here is that he will clean up your island in bulk, whether it be the entire thing or certain sections, which is nice since I've been wanting to redecorate my island for a long time, and trying to restart everything from scratch is like really, really tedious, so that is a nice addition. Even if it's not nearly the same as how Rossetti used to be, hey, at least he's being used in some way. So next up is the Slumber Islands, and what this allows you to do is make an entirely new island from scratch in what's essentially a creative mode. You do not have to worry about time or money restrictions or anything. You could just place whatever furniture you got in the game anywhere you want, any houses anywhere you want, any trees and bushes at like whatever stage you want. You could adjust the time of day and the weather, and this is a cool addition. I do like that. It's nice to be able to make your own island without limitations, without having to completely restart your game from scratch, and being able to decorate the island with others, which you can't do on your main island. That is pretty nice. I have heard that this does require a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to access at all, which if that is the case, that's really, really lame. Like, this is not something that needs an online subscription unless these islands are stored in like Nintendo's cloud, which since this is your own private island, I don't see why that needs to be the case. If there's a cost-cutting measure, if there's a storage-cutting measure, this is a really, really lame one. And lastly, we got some collaborative items, starting with, honestly, probably the most egregious thing to me. So they're adding a bunch of Nintendo items you can get, like toys from their past, game consoles and stuff, and that is cool for display purposes. But the thing is, in the cases of stuff like the NES, SNES, Game Boy, you can play retro games from those consoles within New Horizons. Now, this was something that you could already do in Animal Crossing on the GameCube, and that hasn't returned since. So in theory, this is really cool, as that's basically a game within a game. The problem is, you still need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to access the games at all. Which just, why? I don't see the point in this at all if you're gonna lock them behind the NSO paywall. If you want to access any of these retro games, they're already readily available in each of the NSO apps on the Switch. It's like, oh, I'm going to get this NES to display in my house so that I could play Ice Climber through the game. Or I could just play Ice Climber through NES NSO. It's not that hard. People really love to talk about Nintendo's greed ever since the Switch 2 and all of its pricing and everything. And for the most part, that is justified. But this is probably the most egregious example of this. Because the fact that these are essentially paperweights, if you're not paying for the subscription, as essentially an advertisement within the game, honestly, genuinely their most diabolical move yet. If anything, I think this is more of a slap in the face than just not getting these retro games back in Animal Crossing at all. But that isn't the end of it, because they're also bringing back some Legend of Zelda and Splatoon items as collaboration items you can get, similar to the Mario stuff you could get from all the way back in like 2021, which in theory is cool, but you need to have specific Legend of Zelda and Splatoon amiibo to even access these items. The villagers I can kinda get, but the items, like you could get them in fortune cookies in Animal Crossing New Leaf, which just required you to walk around with your 3DS for a bit. You didn't need to put behind a big paywall. And the fact that they already did all this collaboration stuff back in New Leaf, sure, there are some new items here. Like you got some Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom stuff, you got some Splatoon 3 stuff, but it feels like they really could have gone a lot further. They could have added even more franchises. They could have explored more niche stuff within these franchises. And they didn't even bother to bring back the freaking tower control item, which was in New Leaf. That was the best one of them all for the jingle alone. Literally unplayable. And then the last collaboration revolves around them adding a bunch of Lego furniture into the game. And this I actually do like. They come in all these different kinds of colors, and the Lego blocks look as big as the Duplo ones, which were the Legos that I played with as a kid, and they're not locked behind a paywall or anything. These are just available in the game, which is nice. So I could see myself grabbing these. And that's basically it for what comes in the update and the Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons. My stance is that if you're gonna do this little with it, why even bother? Like, yeah, I realize it's like, I'm never going to complain about getting free content in my game. It's just that if you're gonna go through the effort of updating this game after 4 years of radio silence, it feels like they could have and should have done more. I mean, look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. When they did the booster course pass a whole 5 years after the game came out, that doubled the track selection in the game over time. And for $25, I think that was totally worth it. With this, like if they were charging for just all the free content, I would just think that's absolutely deplorable on their part. So it's like, I'm fine with getting new stuff for this game, but at the same time, Animal Crossing New Leaf, and I know, like, I'm sorry that I'm bringing up that game so much, but I mean, it's part of the same series. It's kind of hard to avoid. I was there for Animal Crossing New Leaf, and the Welcome Amiibo update that came out 3 years after the game adds so much more by comparison. They add a campground with an entirely new currency and all these different missions you could do. They add in some new mini games to play, like the Desert Island Escape and the Puzzle League. I'm pretty sure they even add some new villagers in there as well. Like, they add a lot of substantial things that could keep a player coming back for a long time. With this stuff, I just feel like I'm going to tinker around with it once, be like, that's cool, and then just go back to not playing the game again for a really long time. And the problem with New Horizons is that once you step away from it, it's a really difficult game to come back to. When you just hear all the animals keep saying the same dialogue over and over, when all the tools keep constantly breaking and you can't just relax without feeling like busy work, it creates a game that, while it is still really good, makes for one that has all these little things that just get on my nerves to the point where I really need to be in a very specific mood to play it. This update doesn't really do anything for me to alleviate that. I'm still gonna try out. I mean, it is completely free beyond all the NSO and Amiibo nonsense. So, like, yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. And like I said, if loading times are good on the Switch 2 edition, then yeah, I will likely pick the Switch 2 edition up. Heck, I probably will just pick it up anyway. I mean, $5 is less than a Subway sandwich these days, so why not? It definitely is a case of what you see is what you get. And we'll see how long it's able to keep me coming back to the game. But what do you think about all this? Do you feel the same way that I do and feel like, yeah, this doesn't really feel like all that much? Or is this everything you could possibly ask for? Let me know in the comments. But in the meantime, I'm gonna get back to making my own Animal Crossing world now. A better life lies ahead, or at least that's what Albert Einstein told me. God bless and have a good one. Bye-bye.